Listen closely. Venus square Neptune reaches its peak on August 1st, creating one of the most deceptive yet transformative aspects in astrology. This cosmic event doesn't just influence your love life, it completely rewrites the rules of how you perceive reality in relationships, finances, and self-worth. What you're about to discover will either liberate you from years of romantic illusions or leave you trapped in cycles of disappointment and fantasy. Venus square Neptune is happening right now, building intensity until August 1st when it reaches exact alignment. This aspect occurs when Venus, the planet governing love, beauty, money, and values, forms a 90-degree challenging angle with Neptune, the planet of dreams, spirituality, illusions, and deception. This cosmic tension creates a fog that descends over your emotional landscape, making it nearly impossible to distinguish between authentic love and elaborate fantasy. The square aspect in astrology represents internal tension, conflict, and the need for action. Unlike harmonious aspects that flow easily, squares demand that you make difficult choices and confront uncomfortable truths. When Venus squares Neptune, you're being forced to examine whether your romantic ideals are inspiring visions or dangerous delusions. Neptune dissolves boundaries, which sounds beautiful until you realize it's dissolving the boundary between what's real and what's imagined in your relationships. Venus wants love, beauty, and harmony, but under Neptune's influence, she becomes willing to accept mirages instead of genuine connection. This creates a cosmic setup where you might find yourself falling in love with potential rather than reality, with projections rather than people. The timing of this aspect is crucial because it's occurring during a period when many people are already feeling emotionally vulnerable and seeking deeper meaning in their connections. The universe isn't being cruel by sending this challenging energy. Instead, it's providing an opportunity for profound clarity, but only if you're willing to do the inner work required. This transit affects three primary areas of your life. First, romantic relationships become theaters of illusion where you might find yourself attracted to unavailable people, idealizing partners who show you minimal attention, or staying in situations that drain your energy because you're convinced you can save or change someone. Second, your financial decisions become clouded by unrealistic expectations, get-rich-quick schemes, or spending money to maintain an image that isn't authentically you. Third, your sense of self-worth becomes entangled with external validation, causing you to lose touch with your inherent value. The most dangerous aspect of Venus square Neptune is how good the illusions feel. Unlike other challenging transits that create obvious discomfort, this one wraps you in beautiful fantasies that feel more satisfying than reality. You might find yourself preferring the version of someone that exists in your imagination to the actual person standing in front of you. You might choose the comfort of daydreams over the messiness of real intimacy. Understanding the symptoms of Venus square Neptune is essential because they often masquerade as romantic sensitivity or spiritual awakening. The first symptom is emotional hypersensitivity, where your feelings become so intense and overwhelming that you lose perspective. You might cry at commercials, feel devastated by minor relationship conflicts, or experience mood swings that seem completely disconnected from actual events. This heightened sensitivity isn't weakness. It's your psyche becoming more porous and receptive to subtle energies, but it also makes you vulnerable to manipulation and projection. The second symptom is compulsive fantasy and escapism. You find yourself creating elaborate mental movies about your relationships, replaying conversations that never happened, or planning futures with people who haven't demonstrated genuine interest in you. These fantasies become so vivid and emotionally satisfying that reality feels disappointing in comparison. You might spend hours imagining perfect scenarios while avoiding the actual work of building real connections. The third symptom is extreme idealization of romantic interests. You place people on pedestals so high that they cease to be human and become symbols of everything you think you need. You focus exclusively on their positive qualities while completely ignoring red flags, inconsistencies, or behaviors that would concern you in any other context. You create elaborate explanations for their shortcomings and convince yourself that their potential is more important than their current actions. The fourth symptom is selective perception and denial. You become deaf to feedback from friends, family, or your own intuition when it conflicts with your romantic fantasy. People who care about you try to point out concerning patterns, but you dismiss their observations as jealousy, misunderstanding, or lack of spiritual awareness. You develop an almost supernatural ability to rationalize contradictory information and maintain your illusions despite mounting evidence. The fifth symptom is loss of personal identity and boundaries. In your quest for transcendent love, you begin dissolving yourself into your relationships. You abandon hobbies, friends, and interests that don't align with your partner's preferences. You find yourself agreeing with opinions you don't actually hold and making compromises that violate your core values. You look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back at you. The sixth symptom is financial confusion and unrealistic spending. Neptune's influence on Venus can create delusions about money, causing you to make purchases based on fantasy rather than reality. You might overspend trying to impress someone, invest in schemes that promise impossible returns, or use money to maintain an image that isn't sustainable. Your relationship with material possessions becomes entangled with your emotional needs. The seventh symptom is spiritual bypassing disguised as enlightenment. You might convince yourself that your suffering in relationships is somehow noble, or that accepting poor treatment demonstrates unconditional love. You use spiritual concepts to avoid setting boundaries or confronting difficult truths. You mistake martyrdom for compassion and confusion for mystical experience. These symptoms don't appear to destroy you, they appear to wake you up. Each one is a signpost pointing toward areas where you've been accepting illusion instead of truth. The universe uses the discomfort of these symptoms to motivate you toward clarity, because comfort rarely inspires growth. Venus square Neptune is ultimately about learning to distinguish between authentic love and addictive attachment. Authentic love enhances your sense of self, supports your growth, and feels stable even during challenging times. Addictive attachment diminishes your identity, creates constant anxiety, and requires constant drama to feel alive. Authentic love is based on seeing and accepting someone as they actually are. Addictive attachment is based on loving someone's potential or the version of them that exists only in your imagination. The cosmic purpose of this transit is to upgrade your capacity for real intimacy by forcing you to confront every way you've been settling for substitutes. The universe wants to give you genuine love, lasting prosperity, and unshakable self-worth. But first, you must release your grip on the counterfeits you've been clutching. This process requires tremendous courage, because it means acknowledging that some of your most cherished beliefs about love might be fantasies. It means accepting that the person you've been idealizing might not be capable of the relationship you desire. It means recognizing that your financial struggles might be connected to unrealistic expectations rather than external circumstances. The gift hidden within this challenging transit is the development of spiritual discernment. You learn to feel the difference between inspiration and illusion, between intuition and wishful thinking, between genuine spiritual experience and emotional manipulation. This discernment becomes a permanent part of your consciousness, protecting you from future deception and guiding you toward authentic experiences. Now that you understand the nature of Venus square Neptune, you need practical tools to navigate this energy consciously. These 4 steps will help you extract the wisdom from this transit while avoiding its pitfalls. Step 1 involves creating radical honesty through documentation. Neptune's influence makes it difficult to think clearly, so you must externalize your thoughts to see them objectively. Get a notebook dedicated specifically to this process. Create 2 columns on each page labeled facts and interpretations. In the facts column, write only observable behaviors and events. What did this person actually say and do? What concrete actions have they taken? What measurable results have you experienced? Be ruthlessly objective, recording only what a neutral observer would witness. In the interpretations column, write all the stories your mind creates about these facts. What meanings are you assigning to their actions? What motivations are you attributing to them? What future scenarios are you imagining based on limited information? This process reveals the enormous gap between reality and the narratives you create about reality. Practice this documentation daily for at least 2 weeks. You'll begin to see patterns in how your mind transforms neutral events into romantic dramas. You'll notice how much of your emotional suffering comes from interpretations rather than actual experiences. This awareness alone begins to dissolve Neptune's spell, because illusions cannot survive conscious examination. Step 2 involves developing somatic wisdom through body-based decision-making. Your mind can be deceived by beautiful words and compelling stories, but your body responds only to authentic energy. This step teaches you to use your physical sensations as a truth detector. When you're confused about a person or situation, sit quietly and bring them to mind. Pay attention to what happens in your body. Does your chest open and your breathing deepen? Do your shoulders relax and your jaw soften? Do you feel a sense of expansion and aliveness? These are signs that this connection supports your well-being. Alternatively, do you feel your stomach tighten or your throat constrict? Do your shoulders rise toward your ears? Do you experience a sense of contraction or depletion? These physical responses indicate that something about this connection is draining your energy, regardless of how it appears on the surface. Practice this body-based assessment regularly, especially before making important relationship or financial decisions. Your body's wisdom is not influenced by Neptune's illusions because it responds to actual energetic exchanges rather than mental constructs. Step 3 involves reclaiming your emotional sovereignty through self-sourcing. Venus square Neptune often creates addictive relationship patterns because you're seeking from others what you haven't learned to provide for yourself. This step breaks the cycle of emotional dependency that makes you vulnerable to manipulation and fantasy. Make a list of everything you're hoping to receive from your romantic interest. Common items include validation, security, excitement, purpose, spiritual connection, or permission to feel worthy. For each item on your list, ask yourself how you can begin providing this for yourself in small, concrete ways. If you're seeking validation, start acknowledging your own achievements and progress. If you're seeking security, create stability in your living environment and financial habits. If you're seeking excitement, pursue activities that genuinely energize you. If you're seeking spiritual connection, develop your own meditation or prayer practice. This isn't about becoming completely self-sufficient and never needing others. It's about approaching relationships from wholeness rather than neediness. When you're not desperately seeking someone to complete you, you can see them clearly instead of projecting your unmet needs onto them. Step 4 involves establishing energetic boundaries through conscious choice. After gaining clarity about reality, developing body wisdom, and reclaiming your sovereignty, you must actively choose what you will and will not accept in your life. This step transforms insight into empowerment. Write a clear statement of your relationship standards based on your authentic values rather than fear or fantasy. Include both what you're seeking and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Be specific about behaviors, communication patterns, and energetic exchanges. For example, you might write that you choose relationships where words align with actions, where your emotional needs are considered important, where you feel free to express your authentic self, and where there's mutual investment in growth. You might also state that you no longer accept inconsistent communication, emotional manipulation, one-sided effort, or having to convince someone of your worth. Read this statement regularly and use it as a filter for evaluating your relationships. When someone's behavior conflicts with your standards, you have a choice point. You can either maintain your boundaries and accept the consequences, or you can abandon your standards and accept the predictable results. This process isn't about becoming rigid or demanding perfection from others. It's about honoring your own worth enough to insist on treatment that supports your well-being. It's about choosing conscious relationships over unconscious attachments. The transformation that occurs when you complete these 4 steps is profound and permanent. You develop what could be called enlightened discrimination, the ability to perceive clearly without becoming cynical, to remain open-hearted without becoming naive, to love deeply without losing yourself. Your relationship with love itself undergoes a profound metamorphosis, evolving from desperate seeking to confident choosing. Where you once frantically searched for love like a starving person hunting for scraps, you now approach relationships from a place of inner abundance and discernment. You stop chasing people who demonstrate minimal interest, recognizing that breadcrumbs of attention are not the feast your soul deserves. Instead of interpreting mixed signals as mysterious romantic challenges to decode, you start seeing them for what they truly are: clear indicators of someone's unavailability or lack of genuine interest. You begin recognizing those who offer genuine partnership, people who show up consistently with their words matching their actions. These individuals don't leave you guessing about their intentions or walking on eggshells around their moods. They communicate openly, respect your boundaries, and demonstrate through their behavior that they value what you bring to the relationship. You stop trying to earn love through endless sacrifice, people-pleasing, and the exhausting performance of being whoever you think others want you to be. Instead, you start attracting love through your authentic self-expression, understanding that the right person will be drawn to your genuine essence rather than a carefully crafted facade. This shift means you no longer tolerate being treated as an option while treating someone else as your priority. You stop making excuses for people's poor treatment of you, and you certainly stop believing that if you just love them hard enough, they'll eventually change. You recognize that love is not a transaction where your worthiness is proven through how much you're willing to endure or sacrifice. True love flows naturally between 2 people who choose each other freely, not because one has convinced the other of their value through relentless effort. Your financial relationship also undergoes a dramatic transformation as you stop spending money to fill emotional voids or maintain false images that don't reflect your authentic self. No longer do you make impulse purchases when you're feeling lonely, inadequate, or seeking to project an image of success that isn't grounded in reality. You stop buying expensive gifts for people who haven't earned that level of investment, hoping to purchase their affection or attention. You cease using shopping as emotional therapy or as a way to keep up with others whose lives you're comparing yourself to through carefully curated social media posts. Instead, you make purchases based on actual needs and authentic desires rather than fantasy projections or deep-seated insecurity. You buy things that genuinely serve your life and align with your values, not items that represent who you think you should be or what you believe will impress others. Your financial decisions become conscious choices that support your real goals and lifestyle rather than unconscious attempts to fill internal emptiness with external possessions. Your sense of abundance transforms completely, shifting from constantly seeking what you lack to appreciating what you already have. You develop genuine gratitude for the relationships, experiences, and resources currently present in your life, rather than always focusing on what's missing. This doesn't mean you stop having goals or desires for growth, but rather that your contentment isn't perpetually postponed until some future achievement or acquisition. You understand that abundance is primarily a state of consciousness, not just a bank account balance or collection of possessions. Most importantly, your relationship with yourself becomes the unshakable foundation for all other connections in your life. You no longer need external validation to feel worthy or complete, recognizing that seeking your sense of self through others' opinions is like trying to see your reflection in a broken mirror. You develop an internal compass that guides your decisions based on your own values and intuition, rather than constantly seeking approval or permission from others to live your life. You approach relationships as an expression of your fullness rather than an attempt to fill your emptiness. This means you enter connections with others from a place of wholeness, offering your authentic self while maintaining your individual identity. You stop looking for someone to complete you because you understand that you are already complete. Relationships become about sharing your life with someone rather than needing them to give your life meaning. You're no longer desperately seeking your other half because you've integrated both your masculine and feminine energies, your light and shadow aspects, into a cohesive sense of self. This transformation means you can enjoy solitude without feeling lonely, and you can be in relationship without losing yourself. You stop abandoning your own needs, interests, and friendships when you enter romantic partnerships. You maintain your personal boundaries not as walls to keep people out, but as healthy containers that allow intimacy to flourish safely. This doesn't mean you become invulnerable to Neptune's future influences, or that you'll never experience confusion in relationships again. The universe will continue to present you with situations that test your discernment and challenge your growth. You may still encounter people who trigger your old patterns or situations that temporarily cloud your judgment. However, these experiences no longer derail you completely or send you spiraling back into old destructive patterns. It means you now have tools to navigate these experiences consciously rather than being swept away by them unconsciously. You can recognize when you're being triggered and pause to respond rather than react. You have practices and support systems in place that help you maintain your center even when external circumstances become chaotic. You've developed the ability to feel your emotions fully without being controlled by them, and you can distinguish between intuitive guidance and fear-based thinking. When confusion arises, you know how to sit with uncertainty rather than making impulsive decisions to escape discomfort. You trust your ability to navigate challenges, and you're not afraid of making mistakes because you understand they're part of the learning process. You've cultivated enough self-awareness to catch yourself when you start slipping into old patterns, and you have the tools to course correct before causing significant damage to yourself or others. The cosmic gift of Venus square Neptune is the development of authentic spiritual maturity, which goes far beyond surface-level spiritual concepts or practices. You learn to distinguish between genuine spiritual experience and emotional manipulation disguised as spirituality. You can recognize when someone is using spiritual language to justify harmful behavior, avoid accountability, or manipulate others into accepting poor treatment. You're no longer impressed by spiritual jargon or mystical claims that aren't backed up by consistent, loving action. You understand the difference between unconditional love and enabling dysfunction. True unconditional love doesn't mean accepting all behavior without boundaries or consequences. It means loving the essence of a person while refusing to participate in or support their destructive patterns. You recognize that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's harmful behavior, even if they interpret your boundaries as rejection or lack of love. You recognize that true compassion sometimes requires saying no to what someone wants in order to support what they actually need. This might mean refusing to lend money to someone with an addiction, declining to cover for someone's irresponsibility, or ending a relationship with someone who isn't ready for the level of partnership you desire. You understand that creating consequences for poor behavior is often more loving than constantly rescuing someone from the natural results of their choices, as it allows them the opportunity to learn and grow rather than remaining stuck in destructive patterns. This transit, challenging as it may be, is ultimately an initiation into a more conscious way of loving. It forces you to examine every belief you hold about relationships and keep only those that serve your highest good. It teaches you that real love doesn't require you to abandon yourself, and that genuine spiritual connection enhances rather than diminishes your individuality. The clarity you gain from navigating Venus square Neptune consciously becomes a permanent part of your consciousness. You carry this wisdom into future relationships, making choices from awareness rather than unconscious patterns. You become someone who can love deeply without losing themselves, who can remain open without becoming vulnerable to deception. As August 1st approaches and this cosmic energy reaches its peak, remember that you have everything you need to transform this challenge into triumph. The tools are in your hands. The wisdom is accessible, and your capacity for authentic love is waiting to be fully expressed. The only question remaining is whether you'll choose the courage required to claim your truth and step into the love you truly deserve.